Well, hello, and welcome back to my weekly live stream. So, today we are talking about co regulation, which is a rather big topic, but I'm going to break this down in a way that you can actually make use of it. So, I'm going to start by getting into a little bit of what co regulation is. I'm going to talk about an example. And if you are in any kind of relationship, which is probably everyone, then this is going to be relevant to you. So you might be thinking, oh, how does this relate to me? Maybe I'm not married or what have you. So we use co regulation with our colleagues, with our friends, with our employees, with our boss, with our kids, with our spouse, with anyone and everyone. It is really foundational to being a human being, same way self regulation is. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of just about the development of it. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about theory and science because I don't want to bore you. And I am going to use a personal example, which is an interesting one. So, I do want to start off with a quote from Maya Angelou that I am sure many of you are very familiar with, that you've probably heard before. And it's people won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. So, that what she is speaking to really is how our nervous systems are communicating to each other. Like when you get a vibe from someone, that is the energy that their nervous system is giving off. If you are with someone and they are really edgy and they're talking really fast and they're very stressed, you're going to be like, because that is the vibe that they are giving off. And you're not going to want to be near that unless you want to pick up on their stress. So, when you also hear this saying, you are the average of the five people you spend time with, we're not only talking about the influence of values and where people are going in life and what they're doing and how hard they're working and ambition. We are also talking about the energy with which they carry themselves, which again, it's your nervous system energy. Now, it's one thing to just know that, oh, well, that's a thing. That person has a vibe, good vibe, bad vibe, neutral vibe. It's another thing to actually be able to work with this, which is why I'm spending time talking about this topic, because it is powerful and it is wildly underutilized and wildly misunderstood by people. So we are breaking this down. Okay, so in my household, we talk a lot about this because my husband and I use this with each other and with our teenage daughter. Now, we started quite some years ago, but we use it regularly. So we are very familiar. We use the language in our household, and we're also both very mindful of how our energy is and what energy it is that we are giving off. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. So let's see. On Friday, we were heading to our downtown city to go to dinner. And our downtown is booming now all of a sudden. There's no parking. There was some events going on. So they had like events parking for $30, $50. I mean, we were just going for a 2-hour dinner, just he and I. So we're racing around, and I get really excited about hunting and manifesting parking spots. I know it sounds funny, but I get really excited about it. And when I find one, it's like a victory. Okay. My husband, on the other hand, gets really stressed when there's no parking spots. He does not get excited. He gets very frustrated. So we're driving around and we're like, forget it. Let's just go in this parking lot. And that one was $20. But then we see a spot across the street. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a spot right there. So he zips out without realizing it. He jumps over the curb and he gets really flustered and just so excitable. And I'm like, okay. It's okay. Like, we're getting the spot. And so I'm responding to him in a very calm, neutral, and playful tone. And I'm doing that on purpose because I don't want to upset his nervous system rather than screaming at him that he just jumped over a curb and now he's racing around. It's not a big deal because that would have actually escalated him. So then we walk to the restaurant and we get seated. It's empty because we went early. It was like 5:15. And we get seated at this little tiny corner table and he's annoyed instantly. Now again, my husband is actually very patient, which is strange. And he's like, what's this? And I said, do you mind? Can we have a window seat, please? Or a booth? I see there's other two tops at the booth. So she comes back and she gives us another booth in a dark corner. And he's annoyed again. He's like, well, what if they won't give it to us? What if and I said, you know what? I'm not even going to think about that. Of course they're going to give it to us. I was a waitress in college. Of course they're going to give it to us. The place is empty. So I say, can we have that one over there? And she's like, sure. So then we sit down, we're ordering, and he's complaining about the menu. So he's in a really funky mood now because of the traffic and then the parking and all of that. I make a joke and then he's out of it and we're laughing. And then we start talking about, getting back up to ventral vagal, using our nervous system, and we're laughing and it's fine. Okay. So that could have gone really different. Me 8 years ago would have gotten so annoyed with the buildup and I would have said, just take me home. Take me home. This is a waste. Which is why when couples are not in a good place and they think going out on a date night is going to solve their problems, it's not. Because if you're already in a bad mood and you don't know how to resolve the bad mood and you two are on different pages and you're not vibing, you're not in sync, any little thing is going to turn into a big thing and it's going to ruin the night. And it's going to highlight how bad things are in your relationship, which is why date nights are not solutions. So he and I have really mastered the ability to navigate this together. And I personally have mastered, not perfect, although I like to think I am. I'm not perfect. And so I don't always do such a beautiful job of being able to handle myself under stress, but I'm pretty darn good now that I'm able to not have things escalate. So co-regulation is crucial because you have the power to influence another person's state of being, just like I did with my husband. Now, he also had the power to influence my state of being because I could have then taken on his energy and I would have been in a grumpy mood too. And I am known to take it like up 5 more notches historically. And then we would have been going home and the night would have been over. And then I would have been sulking. I would have been pouting. I would have been really mad. So co-regulation is actually quite powerful. And it is our nervous system interacting with another person's nervous system. So, you know how if you're yawning and then the person you're watching yawns, or if you are watching something really, you're watching someone, you feel someone getting very emotional and you start to get very emotional, that is really how the practice of co-regulation works. So I want to talk a little bit about how self-regulation works because it actually starts with co-regulation and then we move into self-regulation. So co-regulation starts 0 to 3, 4, 5, when we start to sort of drop off the need for as much co-regulation. But I will tell you, co-regulation spans our lifetime. So it starts with co-regulation. Okay, so you're a newborn. You need to be fed, you need to be changed, you need to be held, you need to be rolled over. So that's co-regulation. That's the primary parent, whoever the parent is the caregiver, is regulating that child's basic biological needs and also soothing the child because the child doesn't yet have the capacity to self-soothe. So until they start to, maybe the first thing the newborn figures out is like how to find their thumb. And that is probably the beginning of them learning to self-soothe. Or if they have a pacifier, the pacifier falls out. They don't know to go get the pacifier to put it back in. So they don't know how to self-soothe. So the parent goes in, they put the pacifier in, and the baby is soothed. Okay, so we're talking about co-regulation there. And children learn how to self-regulate through co-regulation, which is very, very important. So when we think about as little kids get a little bit older, so I would say through the toddler years, they're getting a little bit more, but still the parent is the regulator. And then when they get to school age, they're getting even a little bit better. And then we see them in adolescence and you see them really having meltdowns and they're losing their ability to self-soothe. And then you start to see some potentially troubling behaviors that they're using to soothe. You might see substance use, you might see self-harm. You might see things like that. So again, self-regulation and co-regulation, they go hand in hand. We start with co-regulation and then we take self-regulation, but we never lose the need for co-regulation. I am always acting as a co-regulator for my daughter. Always. I'm always paying attention to my energy and how I'm responding to her, so that I am a safe nervous system. When we think about being co-regulators, we want to be a safe nervous system for people. So if we think about how it affects our relationships, so co-regulation happens most strongly in our closest relationships. So with your life partner and with your kids is going to be the place where it's going to happen. And it's why your partner can feel your stress before you even say a word. They can read it on your face. They could see it in your body language. Now, those are outward signs of what's going on inside before you verbalize it, or they could feel your vibe. They feel it from you, right? And so we want to be able to think about how, as a partner, we can respond. So if your partner is, if you're picking up on their stress, there's a way that you can respond to them that will elicit an open invitation to talk more, or will create a response that shuts them down or sends them into fight flight, right? So we want to be thinking about that and managing that. Now, in my work with couples and in my programs, this is a big portion of the work that we do because it is embedded in our daily living. So, the other thing to keep in mind is that safe relationships can actually rewire nervous systems that have been affected by trauma. Okay, so if we think about if you and your partner are together, or you have a child that suffered some kind of trauma, any kind of trauma, small t, medium t, and big T also, that when that person is in the presence of a safe nervous system, it rewires their nervous system. And the work that I do is about repatterning, retraining, and rewiring the nervous system so that the story, which happens up here that we tell ourselves, is different. It doesn't come from this place of danger and trauma. So again, I just can't stress enough, no pun intended with that word. I can't stress enough how crucial this practice is to really utilize to your advantage. So let's think about some practical strategies for co-regulation. Okay, so mindful communication. So, like I was giving you the example with my husband and I on Friday night, I was very mindful of my tone of voice, how I'm speaking to you right now. I'm speaking in I'm not speaking super soft, but I have a warm tone in my voice, and I'm using some prosody a little bit. We're going up and down. Voice sound is very important when it comes to nervous system. So, sensory information and input is going to register either as safe or dangerous. So, tone of voice, the pacing. So, when I am anxious, so here's a little thing that I do. When I am anxious, let's say I'm presenting, which I'm not anxious during this presentation, but if I'm presenting and I'm anxious, I actually change the tone of my voice and I slow down the pacing because that calms my system down, and then I can get into a place of ventral vagal safety. It tells my nervous system I am safe. And then it's going to directly affect how I'm going to present what I'm presenting. I do the same thing with people. So if my daughter is escalated and she's all over the place, I don't respond with that same energy. I don't match that energy. I come in with probably the energy I have with you right now, and I am listening. And I am talking with her in a way that is bringing her down without me giving any practical solutions or strategies. So, the first strategy for healthy co regulation is being really mindful of your communication. Okay. It's being an active communicator and listener. It's being an empathic listener, and it's using really calm body language. When I get really excited, I'm doing a lot of hand motions. I'm Italian and I'm from New York. I do a lot of hand motions. Okay, so another strategy we can think about is some self-soothing practices. Okay, so we've got yoga, we've got deep breathing, we've got mindfulness, we've got embodiment meditation, which is something that I do with my clients. So it's not just straight meditation where you're just sitting there, it's really embodiment where you're really getting into your body. Because when we think about nervous system, it is the connection with the body and the mind. Okay, we want to be able to access the body because that's where the story starts, is in the body. And so that's where we're going to be able to change it. So when we're doing embodiment meditations to ground ourselves, to get out of fight, flight, to change a narrative or a limiting belief, I am doing embodiment meditation myself and also with my clients. So when you soothe yourself, you're not just calming your nerves, you're also calming the other person's too. So let's say, for example, my daughter comes home and she's really frustrated. Something is going on with school. I might sit down with her and I might sit down on the couch and I might grab like one of our soft, cushy blankets and I might put it on our lap and I might start touching it. Like I'll start sort of doing this. And then she's going to start doing that because soft texture is also really soothing. So that's just a very easily accessible strategy for self-soothing that the other might pick up on. So sometimes when people play with their hair, you might see your kids playing with their hair or someone playing with their hair. That is self-soothing. So these are behaviors that people pick up and they learn how to use them innately and intuitively to soothe themselves. Okay, so another strategy is recognizing and correcting misattunement. Okay, so when emotional alignment is off, we want to be able to acknowledge that and work toward rebalancing. So, attunement is me really seeing you. So, caregivers do this with their babies and it happens throughout life. So, if you're doing let's just say you're doing a presentation to a table, a round table discussion, reading the room is an example of attunement. You're reading the room. You want to make sure, like, is everybody with me? Are they getting sleepy? Are they alert? Are they engaged? If they're getting sleepy, maybe I need to like increase my energy. Maybe I need to make it a little bit more engaging. So you're reading the room. So that is attuning. Now, if you're not reading the room and they're getting sleepy and you're off in your own world, then there is a misalignment. Okay, the emotional alignment is going to be off, and people are going to start to get kind of antsy and they're going to get bored and they're going to probably stop listening. This happened to me actually in a presentation that I was in recently, and I love theoretical science stuff. But when I'm expecting someone to come and do more of a hands-on embodiment practice and they're talking theory, first of all, that's a complete emotional misalignment for me because I'm expecting hands-on embodiment and they're talking theoretical. So that's like two different languages, right? I'm expecting they're going to speak to my body, but they're speaking to my head. So there was a major emotional misalignment there. And then he wasn't reading the room. We were all getting bored, not listening. A few people turned their cameras off. So we want to really notice when we are aligned. And same goes with your partner. If you're talking to your partner about something and you're expressing some feelings and you see them starting to get sort of like itchy, antsy, they're looking away, something is going on, that's an opportunity to check in. So that is another strategy, recognizing the misalignment and then making the correction. So then saying like, hey, is what I'm saying landing, or how is it landing? And they're like, you know what, I just, my head is not there, or the way you're saying it is making me feel defensive. I'm trying not to be defensive. So recognizing it, acknowledging it, and then correcting it. You can also switch courses and say, okay, you know what? Let me take a step back. Let me sort of like, let's regroup and let's do that again. Okay, so the other thing I want to just address quickly is the role of co-regulation in the long-term health of relationships. Okay, so when we think about the fact that our nervous systems are wired for connection, okay, we're wired for connection. It's always interesting to me when people say that they're not interested in having a life mate. No judgment, but I'm always curious about that. Now, yes, we can get connection from other people, but connection from your friends is not the same thing as connection from immediate, close people. Yes, you can be close with friends, but your friends are going to have their own immediate, close people. So we are wired for connection. And so when we think about this, that means that co-regulation is always happening. And the longer you're with someone, the more your nervous systems are going to pick up on each other's cues, and they're going to pick up on each other's language, and they're going to really feel that. So if you and your partner are in this pattern where you're communicating in a way that just feels off and you're missing each other, and you have been in a sort of like a dysregulated or fight, flight, or disconnected state for a while, then you're going to want to start having some conversations about that energy and begin to switch course. Now, the other thing you could do is you could start regulating yourself and start practicing this, and your partner will begin to pick up on and feel your energy. And then you can start to crystallize that by having conversations. So you get the felt experience and the embodiment work, and then you get to have the conversation, which means you get the cognitive work. Now, this is something that I do when I work solo with women, is that we work on their nervous system and her energy and how she is soothing herself, and then what is emanating from her and how she has the control and the capacity to influence those around her. And that is a powerful influence. We can either use it for good, to influence people in a positive, grounded, present way, or we could use it for not good, where we influence people in a way where we're exacerbating their anxiety, their depression, their frustration, their impatience, and all of that. So it works both ways. But remember, when you're in a relationship with someone and you're regulating yourself, you're not just regulating yourself, you're also actually regulating your partner. So what I want you to do is I want you to reflect on all of your own relationships, the one with your life mate, the ones that you spend the most time with, the people you spend the most time with, your life mate, maybe if you have a business partner, and your kids. And I want you to think about how you and they are co-regulating. And I want you to look at areas where you might be able to improve. And I would also encourage you to start practicing, to start taking up a practice of your own self-soothing. Start by recognizing your emotions in the presence of others. Notice what that generates in you, and then acknowledge it and decide if that's how you want to feel. And if they are presenting with a feeling that you are then feeling in your nervous system that you like, I want you to name it, acknowledge it, feel it, let yourself be with it. And if they are presenting with a feeling that you do not like, then I want you to, for yourself, acknowledge that. And then I want you to work on shifting your own energy. Okay, so presently, today, I put a new opportunity out for you to do some of this work with me. It is 7 days. And in 1 week, 7 days, it's a Monday to Friday and then a Monday, Tuesday. So inside of 7 days, you will be able to turn around your stress responses, take control over your emotions, start to live more presently, connect more deeply with your partner. This is really for women, and it's for women who are married. And you may or may not have kids. So if you are the woman who you got a lot on your plate and you are working, you've got a big job, you carry a lot of stress, you come home and you're just like, oh, you just have so much that you're carrying, and all you want to do is pour yourself a glass of wine, crash on the couch, turn on Netflix. That was me 10 years ago. I felt like I was missing out on so much of my life. So if that is you, or you just come home and you check out and you really cannot be present because you have zero energy, zero bandwidth, you're just running on fumes, this is for you. And yes, 7 days. I promise you that if you utilize the tools and the strategies, ultimately the practice that I'm giving you in these 7 days, within the first couple of days of using them, you will notice a big, big shift. So you go to my profile and you will find the information there. Send me a DM. I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM and 7 days, and I will send you the link.